Hey, hello, how are you? Today we'll be doing a Garfield crochet tutorial because I'm going to do my best to make this a full-out tutorial where you can watch this video from step one all the way to the end and make it perfectly. But I may do very passive where I tell you to oh, skip this, go into the next loop, and not give full number counts of stuff. So if you're somebody who needs full stitch counts during a tutorial, I may not be the best person because I am not always the best at counting my stitches. But I will always do my starting chain as well as how I flip my yarn, where I add extra stitches, and how many rows I do. So that was a lot of information to start with, and I'm sorry. But I just want to preface that for if you clicked on this video. I'm also going to preface that this is not going to be a traditional crochet plush video because I will not be doing the magic circle at all. This will be a lot of sewing, and if you are not somebody who enjoys sewing your crochet works together, you can just use this as an inspiration to make your own design, your own pattern. That is totally fine. You know, I'm just sharing this for fun because I enjoy crocheting and I would like to. So I don't want to talk too much. We're just going to jump right into all of my supplies. So first and foremost, we need our orange yarn. This is a little bit darker than Garfield actually is, but this is what I'm working with. I wanted to make it with fluffy yarn, which this I do not recommend if you're not someone well seasoned in fluffy yarn. I don't think I'm quite even experienced with fluffy yarn enough to use this, but we're rolling with it because of how long this fluffy yarn is. Look at this one. Look at this one. It's very thick. But the original yarn I ordered, I don't know if it was the color lot or something, but it came in way more pink than orange, so it just was not going to work. So I had to improvise. I ordered this off Amazon. This is super soft and fluffy and feels amazing on the piece that I already started on. So I'm not going to complain. But yes, so I have 3 skeins of this. I don't think I'll need all of them. It's 98 yards per skein. Came in 1 or 3 packs. It was better to order the 3-pack. I also have the Little Bunny Premier yarns for black detailing. I also have loops and thread, this baby yellow color for the mouth, which I do not need this much, but I didn't have baby yellow in general. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of sewing involved, and I'm using a 5mm hook here. Let's see if that will focus at all. Anyways, I'll be using a 5mm hook, and I'm sure I missed a lot to address and say to you guys, but we'll just say this is good enough and we'll start. I did already do either the back of the head or the front of the head because I'm completely winging this. I am making this up as I go. I didn't really know how how big I needed my starting chain, so on and so forth. So yes, this is going to be kind of the gist of what one side of the head will look like. And like I said, this yarn is just so incredibly soft. If you want this, I've used only 2 other fluffy yarns, but oh my gosh, this is the softest. If you have used a lot of fluffy yarn and want to make the fluffiest, softest plush ever, so far this is my vote. But anyways, that's just a sample. Now we're going to get our yarn and we're going to do our starting chain here. So for your first chain, or I guess I should say your starting chain, you are going to want to do 20. So 20 into your starting chain, and so I don't lose count, I'm going to pause, count, and come back. You want to make sure you don't do your starting chain too tight at all because it's definitely hard if you can't see, you can only really see your stitch here on these parts, and sometimes, especially even on my other first, my starting chain, it was kind of hard to see. But you don't want to do it too tight so it's easy to kind of weave in here. Oh, it went all the way around, I guess. And then we're just gonna do a regular next one, our row 1, which would be 19 stitches, because we're gonna go all the way down with it. And it's already fighting me, which is always so much fun. But row 1 will be 19 stitches. I am to the end of row 1, so I'm going to flip my yarn here. It's going to be a little hard for the first couple of rows to kind of work our way in. This one I'm going to expand out to kind of round it out a little bit, because I did originally try and do like an oval shape similar to how you would do a magic ring, but it did not work, to be completely honest, with this yarn, because it is just so thick that it was just hard to try and keep track of where I put things. So this is the bottom. See, even right now. Okay, there we go. I got my yarn all worked out here, and I'm just gonna go across, and this should add a stitch in on the end here. So we should be back up to 20 stitches. Like I said, I'm not gonna specifically like count everything every go round, but you should be adding a stitch to the end so we can round off kind of how it's rounded on our other one here. And it's gonna fight me, so I'm gonna turn this off and finish my row to not make this video forever long. As I'm working on row 3 here, I should preface that this is single crochet. I didn't even think to say that, but it is. So we're gonna go into the 3rd row here, making sure that there's kind of 2 ways that I went about doing this. So you can either add a single stitch to the end there, or I guess I should say, because it kind of depends on how big you want your crochet to be, or like how big you want to grow each one, which I think here is where I started to do it. So let me go all the way across with my 3rd stitch. As you can see, it's kind of rounding off because I added that single stitch, and then let's go to the end. I'm to the end of row 3, and to kind of also like round off these ends, I'm going to add a 2nd stitch into the last one. That way it kind of expands it, and then I'm going to still do my thing here for row 4. I'm gonna just put a stitch in every stitch. I don't think that's the proper way to say it, but just going to expand it a little bit. Like I said, I'm not including like perfect numbers, because to be honest, I don't know if I'm missing one here or there. For me, when I'm using fluffy yarn, I typically, like I said, I make a piece of it and then just kind of make sure that they line up together when I'm done. So, and I try my best to make sure that here, I do my best to go in each individual stitch. Like I said, I added stitches, and I'm gonna do the same here on row 4. For this one, I'm actually not gonna add a stitch into the end because I'm making it a little bigger than my last one. So I'm just gonna flip my yarn and go in for row 5, I think we're on, and go all the way down and across, trying our best to go in every single stitch. Now at the end of row 5, you can do whichever way you prefer, where if you want to add a 2nd stitch into there, or if you want to add a single crochet, then flip your yarn, which is what I'm personally gonna do. I thought when I did my first one, I guess I must have expanded a little quicker on this one, because this is so far lining up pretty good, and I thought I had added more stitches, but maybe I just switched the way I was adding stitches. So far I've only had one row that I've added more than one like crochet stitch into it. and the rest have been just one. Like I said, I'm winging this. I did not perfectly count out the back of the head or the front of the head, whichever one turns out better will be the front. So there's that, and then we'll come back. To make this video not 2 hours long, I went ahead and did row 7 and 8, adding on a stitch, and now the next row, which is row 9, I will just not add anything to it. Now for row 10, we're gonna do the same thing. I'm not gonna expand on it at all. I'm just gonna go straight across. I'm on row 12, and I'm doing just like previously where I put 2 stitches into one, just trying to show you them both on to row 13, where I'm going to do the same thing again, where I'm reducing, so I'm putting 2 stitches into one. Row 14 will be the same of reducing by 1. This will be our last row here, and I did the same of reducing by 1, and then I will go all the way to the end, just skipping the very last stitch. Now I have the front and the back of Garfield's head. Next, I will be working on his body. It is a couple days later. I did have to go figure out how I was going to do the body. I did write down how I was going to. It's kind of hard to see anything right now because of how thick this yarn is, but I wanted to very quickly kind of show you guys my idea and how I made the body, why I made the body this shape, and then I will get into all the steps. So personally, I am going to be doing where his arms are kind of attached, no shoulders, or I guess no neck, just shoulders, arms, body, dangly legs, which you cannot see, dangly legs, and tail. So he's not a very traditional Garfield shape, but of course, that's kind of how you should do it, is just pull inspiration, and technically this is an orange kitty. But yes, so that's kind of where I am with the shape and everything, why it is this way, because I want his legs to kind of be out and dangly, his tail can be seen. Anyways, I've said enough. Let's jump in to, oh, I also wanted to say this is all the yarn I have left from the first skein. I think this was all the first skein. So yeah, I'm gonna jump into my second skein for the body. For the body, I'm going to start with kind of the bottom, so to speak, where his legs will be, and going to do a starting chain of 26. There is my starting chain, and now I'm going to skip the first loop here and go into the second, like I traditionally do with most of my projects. Do a single crochet, and then I'm going to go all the way down, and I'm not going to reduce or expand at all. I'm just going to do 25 stitches into each row for 5 rows. So 5 rows of 25, including this one I'm working on right now. I finished my 5 rows of just straight 25 stitches. Now it's going to be impossible for me to truly show you what I'm doing, but I'm going to go into the first stitch, which I gotta find first, then go into the second stitch, creating 1 single stitch. So I am reducing here, gonna keep going. I'm going to be reducing, and so I can kind of create a slight curve, which I already forgot how many rows I did, so let me click back real quick. So we are reducing by 1 stitch, so this row will be 23, or 24, my bad, and then the next row will be 23, 22, 21, so we're going to do this for 4 rows. The same thing that I just showed you, we're going to go all the way to the end, and then we're going to do that 2 stitches into 1 for the next row, then the next, and the next, and then we'll come back to discuss what to do next. I have done my 4 rows of reducing, and this time I'm going to just stay the same. I'm not going to reduce, I'm not going to increase my rows, so I'm going to just go into, for each row, I'm just going to go straight into every stitch all the way down for 8 rows. And this is just, I think it should be 21 stitches straight across for 8 rows. Now for the next step, I am going to do the same thing as before. I'm going to decrease for 4 rows. So I'm going to put my first and second stitch into a single stitch, go all the way across, do the same for the following 4 rows, and then we are done with the body. Well, until we have to embroider on it. The 2 pieces of the body are done. So now I need to go get my black yarn to embroider some stripes in him. I trimmed off a nice long piece of black yarn, and I'm going to put it on my needle here. And now Garfield doesn't have like traditional cat stripes, or I guess tiger stripes. He has more of like just little stripes in a line. So that's kind of what I'm gonna go for, is I'm just gonna kind of make little stripes. And if you're using fluffy yarn, you'll definitely need a thick enough yarn to stick out. If you do like acrylic or something, it's gonna get lost in the fluffiness. So I'm using fluffy yarn to make his stripes. Oops, pulled it off my needle. And I'm just gonna kind of do, I think I'll just do 2 rows of these, and I'm gonna start with a smaller and get to a bigger stripe. You can do more stripes, you could do less stripes, you can do it however you please, but I think this is what I'm gonna go with. I wanted something very simple because I am gonna more so simplify his face and stuff like that too, so I feel like the stripes like this will be a little better. Then I'm just gonna tie this off, and I'm actually not gonna cut this yarn at all. I'm just gonna use it to help with the stuffing. It will just remain in there as stuffing. Next, we're going to work on his arms and legs. Garfield is slowly coming together here. I completed one of his arms so I could kind of shape it out and figure out specifically how I want to do it. So we're going to jump in, and I'm going to show you how I made his little arm, which is not attached yet, but I just wanted to show you what he looks like so far. To start, we are going to do a magic ring, which I say in all of my videos I am not good at a magic ring. So this is what I do. I stitch 4, go into the first one, put yarn on there and pull through, and I have a circle, kind of like what you would get with a magic ring. Then we're gonna go into the middle, which is very hard to tell with fluffy yarn, and then we're gonna pull around 6 times. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is the start of Garfield's paw. I now need a stitch marker so I can know exactly where I'm at. Now I am going to, for I guess technically my first round, this is what I typically call my first round, I'm going to go into my first stitch here once I find it. And I'm going to pull my yarn through, and that's stitch number 1. Then I'm going to go through it a second time, and I'm basically going to do that with every stitch, is I'm going to put 2 stitches into one, leading me with having 12 stitches all together. I made it back to the start, I added 12 stitches, and now this is very easy, so I'm, well, kind of, depending on how well you can see into your yarn here. I'm just going to put, eventually, my hook into my first stitch, mark it off so I know what round or where I started. And for 11 rounds, I am just going to do a single stitch into every stitch. I'm not increasing or decreasing, just 1 stitch for every stitch for 11 rounds. With how I want to attach the arms, I want to kind of have this angled, oops, this angled look. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to find my crochet loop here. I remove my stitch marker for right now, put one stitch in, put my stitch marker back, and then I'm gonna go most of the way around. So I'm gonna do around here. I'm basically gonna go to like the opposite side. Oops, my stitch marker fell off. That's great. We're just gonna assume it's like right here, you know, that happens. We're gonna go all the way around here to directly across from our stitch marker. So if I laid it flat, I want to go to there. And then we take our work, flip it, and then pull through one, pull through the next one, and then go all the way back to the other side without knocking our stitch marker off this time. We made it back to our stitch marker, so I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to turn my crochet, and I'm going to, oops, go into 2, turn it into 1, and then go all the way back to where we stopped last time. I think I only need one more time, if not we'll jump back in, but we're gonna put a stitch in, make it 1, go all the way to where we stopped last. That was my last round, or I guess half round you could say. I don't need my stitch marker anymore. I'm just going to cut the yarn, pull through, and I have 2 Garfield arms. It's been a couple days since I've been able to work on this because my son's been home, but I did finish a leg, so I know how much to tell you guys, so we'll work on that in a second, and then we'll work on the ears. And last is tail, because I'm still kind of deciding how I want it to look. I ended up making the leg a little long, but that's okay. I think once it is stuffed, it'll look a lot better. Right now it just looks interesting. I'm going to start my feet almost the same as the arms. I personally am going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to flip it to the end here, the end loop, tie it off, and we have our magic circle. I've said it, I probably said it earlier, but this is how I prefer to do my magic circle. Everyone's a little different. And I'm going to put 6 stitches into the magic circle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So I went all the way around, and now I need my stitch marker from this point on. I'm going to put 2 stitches into every stitch. So I'm going to go from having 6 stitches to having 12. So let me find our first stitch here, eventually. There we go. So that'll be my first stitch. I need to put my stitch marker in so I don't lose my starting place. Then I'll put 2. Oops. Then just go all the way around. That's what it looks like after that one. And now we are going to go back in for our next round, and I'm going to do 2 stitches into the first, marking where my first stitch is. 1, 2, hopefully not lose my yarn here. Oops. Put 2 stitches into the first stitch. Then we're going to put 1 stitch into the next, then 2 into the next, and then go, whoop. I don't know why this ball is fighting me so much. And then 1, and then 2, then 1, all the way around. That is where I am done expanding for right now, and I'm going to just stay the same. I'm going to put a single stitch into every stitch all the way around for 9 rounds. So I'm not going to be expanding, it will just be going straight around for 9. I have done my 9 rows or rounds, and now I'm going to start reducing. So I'm going to go into my first stitch, go into the second one. So I have 3 loops on and pull through, creating 1 stitch. Then I'm gonna go into the next stitch and go 1. Oops. I don't know why this keeps happening today. So we'll do 1 single stitch, 2 single stitches, going into the next one for 3, the next one for 4, keep going for 5, then 6, then reduce again by putting 2 stitches, maybe, putting 2 stitches into 1, then 6, and keep going all the way around. We made it back to the start, and we're going to continue to reduce. So we'll go into our first stitch, into the second, have 3 loops on the yarn, pull through. Like I said, I don't know why it's fighting me so much today, but it decided to. And then we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, then 5. Then we're gonna do 1, 2, and then 5, then keep going. Then we're gonna do the same thing, but instead of 5, we're gonna do 4, and we have our leg. So I'll cut and pull my yarn through, and that one's done. The ears for Garfield are super simple, so let's get started here with those. And then all we'll have left is the tail, the face, and then attaching it all together. And the ears we will be adding some detail for as well. So I'm gonna start, I'll do the starting chain of 8. Row 1 will have 7 stitches in it. Row 2 will have 6. Row 3 will have 5, row 4 will have 4, and our last row, row 5, will have 3 stitches, and there is 1/2 of the ear. Since this video is getting pretty long and I still have quite a few steps left, I did just go ahead and embroider on these stripes on Garfield's ears, and then basically what I'm going to do, because I'm going to attach these after, or like when I'm attaching everything, I'm just going to stuff all the loose string into it rather than using stuffing. So that's a really great like tip if you're gonna embroider like something small like ears that you don't want too bulky. Just stuff all the bonus yarn. Make sure this is extra where you can do that, and ta-da! For the tail, we're gonna start by crocheting 4, then putting our yarn into the first loop and pull through to make our magic circle. Next, we're going to put 6 stitches into the center of the magic circle or ring. Next, we are going to put 2 stitches into each one, getting 12 stitches all the way around. Garfield has a nice fat end of his tail, so we're going to go around again, and we're going to put 2 stitches in the first, a single stitch, 2 stitches into the next stitch, a single stitch, all the way around. Next round we're going to do is going to be our last expanding round. So we're going to do 2 into the first stitch, 1 single stitch, 2 single stitches, then go into the 4th stitch and add 2, and then 1 single stitch and 2 single 1 single stitch, then another, then 2, then 1 single stitch, all the way around. Now we're not going to expand, we're just going to put a single stitch in every one and go around. After 3 rounds of staying the same, we are going to start reducing because I personally want his tail to be a little shorter. I don't want it to be super long. If you want to make a longer tail, I would have expanded a little bit further, as well as kept going a little bit further on this part, but I am just going to make his tail short because I worry about making it too heavy and risking it being easy to like accidentally get pulled off or come loose from the rest of the piece. So this round I am going to do 1, 2, 3 loops on. So basically I went through my first stitch, went through my second stitch. I'm going to pull through to reduce it from 2 stitches down to 1, and then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, do this all over again all the way around. For the next round, we are going to once again reduce, so 2 stitches into 1, then 4, 2 stitches into 1, then 4 all the way around. Next, we are just going to stay the same, so we're not going to reduce or add, we're just going to put a single stitch into each stitch. I also want to apologize for the last bit of this video, because not only am I trying to shrink down how much I talk because of the length of the video, but I'm also getting sick. So there's that. 3 rounds, I'm now going to be reducing again. So I'm going to do 1, then 2 stitches into 1, and then go 3, then this 1, 2 stitches into 1, and then 3 all the way around. It's hard to see anyways, but we're going to reduce one more time. So 2 stitches into 1, then 1, 2, 2 stitches into 1 all the way around. Now I'm not going to reduce or expand, I'm going to put a single stitch in each stitch, which like I said is a little hard to tell because of how long this fluffy yarn is. I did 4 rounds and now I'm going to be done with the base of the tail. I do think I'm going to stitch it where it'll be kind of in this L shape because that is Garfield's tail shape, but I also have to add some detailing on it as well. Now that the tail is done, I added a slight angle to it. I do have to stuff it, but now that that's done, I have to do the part I have been avoiding this entire time, which is doing the face. Since Garfield has a long, skinny mouth, I did a starting chain of 15 and a single crochet of 14 for row 1, and I'm deciding how I want to do it. Am I going to leave it like this and do the nose, which I think I'll start with and see how it looks. So basically I'm going to attach this and then do the nose, and if I don't love it, I'll probably adjust it by embroidering onto it. I did it this way because this yarn is so fluffy. If I would just straight embroider this onto his face, 1, it would be very difficult and there would be a lot of tufts of orange popping through, but 2, it would probably not show through the best. So I'm gonna stitch this on and then I'm going to use my pink that I have to do his nose. I had to play around a bit with the nose to get it right because he has more of a round nose than what you'd think a typical cat cartoon would have, which would be more of a triangle. So what I did is I did my magic ring and I put 6 stitches around it, and then I actually folded it in half, stitched it in half like so, and now I'm stitched it on. Now it's nice and textured. I also gave him a little bit of a smile because I feel like a lot of times you see a little smile on Garfield's face, which is funny because he has such an attitude, but that's how I did that. As you can see, I did add some little, I don't know if these are supposed to be his whiskers, but he has that, and I removed his eyes because it was just not working for me. So we're gonna hit the drawing board again and think about how to do his eyes in a cute way. Going to be honest, I still don't like his eyes, but we're to a point where I've been filming this video over 2 weeks, and I don't have the patience to keep trying the eyes over and over again. It's getting very close to my son's birthday, so I want to go ahead and finish. I will, if I change his eyes, I will do a short, updating you guys, showing you guys, but here he is. I think he turned out really cute. I really like this style. I don't think he looks overly crochet, which is kind of cool and unique, but yeah, there is my Sleepy Garfield. If you guys have any recommendations on how to do the eyes, please let me know down below, but until next time, I hope you guys enjoyed at least most of this video. Obviously, I feel like this isn't complete due to the eyes, but anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye!